Good morning, streamers. I've got a special guest for you. We are going to be talking about how to make your YouTube videos more interesting, from the creation to the doing, to the content, to the title, to the AVD, to the all of the things. But I'm not here to talk alone. I've got Nick Nimmin in the house.
What is going on? Hope everybody is doing fantastic. Luria, I hope that you're doing awesome. Super excited to be here today talking about anything live streaming in YouTube. As always, super pumped to have the conversation with you and everybody that's watching here today. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so thrilled to have you here. I go on your show from time to time. I hang out in your community, but it's been difficult to get you scheduled here because you live so far away. So time zones and all.
Sure.
But a big happy birthday. Everybody say happy birthday to Nick. It was his birthday yesterday.
Thank you. So
those of you, yes, fellow Nimminites, unites. Hey, that kind of rhymes. So Nick and his Nimminati. Nick is fantastic. He's one of my mentors in terms of YouTube growth. So anything YouTube, anything making sure that your audience can grow on YouTube. And also specifically, he does a fantastic job at live streaming and YouTube. So any questions that you have, here's what I want you to do. Put a Q in front of the question so that we can gather those up and I don't miss a thing. But we have some things that we're going to go through and talk about, and then we'll tackle those Qs. Anything else you want to say, Nick, about your channel or the things that you love and are passionate about talking about and why?
I just love making content. I love helping other people who are trying to make content and they're trying to, grow their channels, or more so, not just grow their channels for the sake of growing their channels, but when people are actually trying to accomplish something, be it, I'm trying to help people, understand that the tech they're buying at a deeper way so that they can make sure that they're making the right purchases and they're not wasting a bunch of money, or people that are like, hey, I'm trying to get people motivated so that they'll get out of bed and make a change in their lives and go out and, have a positive impact on the world. Or if it's like, hey, I'm trying to teach people how to live stream and I'm just wanting to, enable them by teaching them, all the stuff that's important to do behind the scenes and about all the tech and things like that in order to help them be able to have a deeper understanding so that they can take that technology and that information and run with it to accomplish whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. So for me, that's my juice. That's what I get out of all of this stuff is, helping other people, just like you, helping other people, figure all this stuff out and helping other people do their thing. I get empowered and energy from other people taking information and running with it. So that's my thing. That's what I do.
I think it's so freaking cool. It gives me the most joy when I see somebody having listened, taken action, important part, and succeeded. And they're just super happy. And they're like, guess what I did? I'm like, yay!
Right.
I see the same thing in you.
Yeah, it's awesome. And like you said as well, the action part, taking action. Yes. A lot of people will listen to this stuff. I guarantee you there's going to be some of you that are watching this right now on the live stream that'll listen to this. You might not even listen to the whole thing and you'll just click away and you won't apply any of the stuff that we're going to talk about. And because of that, you're going to show up again some other time and you're going to be like, man, things just aren't working out. And it's just because you're not applying the stuff. And then there's going to be other people that are hanging out watching. They're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to get all the information out of this. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to look at my next live stream or what it is that I'm doing on my channel. And I'm going to take that information. I'm actually going to start taking action on the things that I've learned today during the live stream. So hopefully that version is you. Hopefully.
Very well said. So speaking of action, let's give them something to take action on. And I really want to cover some things. And again, you guys asked all the questions you want. I want to cover making your videos and live streams more interesting. And that starts with choosing the right topic, doesn't it? Because if you know who you're reaching, then it has to be, it has to match who you're talking to and the topic itself. So what can we do, outside of the normal basics to make sure that we're choosing the right topic first?
The best thing you can do if when you're trying to think of topics for the type of content that you're putting together, and this spans across all types of content. It doesn't matter if you're gaming, if you're making cooking videos, if you're doing, how-to stuff like Luria and I do, like any type of content that you make, the best thing that you can do is embed yourself in communities around that type of content. Even if you're doing like meme compilations, going on to like meme subreddits on Reddit and seeing like, hey, which particular memes are people responding to the most, which particular memes do people have a lot more things to actually say, not just upvotes, but which ones are actually getting people charged to where they're coming in and giving feedback on it. If you're doing tech, being deeply embedded in the tech, staying up to date on the tech blogs and tech websites and tech podcasts and tech YouTube channels and all that stuff, so that you can know what is in the pipeline, right? You're on all the newsletters for all the companies that are, putting out products on a regular basis, so that you can make sure that you're getting up-to-date information when they're getting ready to release something. Just embedding yourself in the communities, knowing what's coming, knowing how people are responding to what is coming or what's happening now, is going to be extremely advantageous for you when it comes to coming up with the right topics. Because like Luria said a minute ago, when it comes to the topic, it's important that you understand who it is that you're making your content for, so that you can get those people to respond to what it is that you're doing. So when you are thinking of the topic itself, that topic is at the highest level like that. People are always thinking, thumbnails and titles.
Right.
But if the topic of the video sucks and the topic isn't something that is in alignment with the people that you're trying to reach, right out of the gate, you could have an awesome thumbnail and an awesome title, but your click-through rate is just going to plummet compared to what you normally get because the topic choice was off. So because of that, you have to look at that entire package that you're putting together. This is the topic, this is my thumbnail, this is my title, because all of that stuff is going to dictate how people are going to respond to your video from the outside, right? So you got to get them to click there. But when you know who it is that you're after, other things that are really advantageous is you can also use the things that they say against them in their in your titles, right? You can use that information, against them in their titles or for them in the titles as well, so that you can make sure that you're communicating with people the same way that they are communicating the information that they happen to be looking for, or the language that they use when they talk about certain things, those sorts of things when you're putting your titles together as well.
And let's pick apart that, because he said against them, but it's really for as he corrected, right? And because the clarity comes in using their words. So if you all tell me that this stuff is overwhelming, live streaming is overwhelming. So I hear that word, I see that word all over the place in your comments and your questions at our support desk, on Facebook groups that we're a part of, right? So I use that word, overwhelming. So I'm using your language back at you because
against you.
For you. Who wins? I used that on Owen's video yesterday. I just had to use that again. That now I'm speaking directly to you because I'm using the same word that you used to me, right? So I just wanted to kind of dive deeper into that. It's really, really powerful. Otherwise, people aren't going to pay much attention. Because
and they're not going to know it's for them.
No, exactly.
They're not going to know it's for them. So like when you use the language like Larry was talking about, when you're using the language that they're using, and then you're talking about things that they care about at the topic level, and then you're also using words in your titles to where this one is a little bit dependent on the type of content that you're making. But if you are, let's say that you're somebody that's teaching people about like crypto, for example, you're somebody that's teaching people about like Apple devices. Well, in that situation, making sure that you put the thing that they care about in the title as well. So if you are reaching people that care about MacBooks, making sure that you use MacBook as close to the front of the title as possible, so that those people that you're trying to reach who have MacBooks or are considering buying MacBooks or who are looking for information on MacBooks, that's one of the first things they see when they hit your title. Really important in terms of knowing who it is that you are reaching, so that you can use those words, and so that you can use that audience identifier to make sure that you are reaching, the right people for what it is that you're doing. Because when you can do that, one, that's going to help them respond better to actually click it, but it's also going to keep them watching, because you're targeting your video in the right way, so the right people are clicking on it. So when they land on your video, they're more likely to watch your video for a longer period of time, because it's literally been crafted for that person, and you've been able to target them correctly from the outside.
Love it. And I love the idea of embedding yourself. I really want you guys to hear that. Embed yourself in the community you're trying to build. Okay, so we're thinking about the topic itself. We're knowing who we're talking to. We're getting embedded in that community. Now, in order to make our video or live stream more interesting, we have to choose a video or live stream. I'm going to let you take that away. I got a cough.
Okay. So when it comes to choosing videos or live streams, I personally recommend that you try both. And the reason I recommend that you try both is because video content is easier for discovery. And what I mean by that is when people are hopping onto YouTube, they are able to consume your video at any point in time. They can consume it as soon as they log onto YouTube, right after you published it. They can consume that video 2 weeks from now or 5 years from now if it's evergreen. And that piece of video content is still going to be as consumable and as interesting and all of that stuff in, you know, a few years or a few days or whatever it happens to be, as it would be at the time that you are publishing it. And videos are typically or shorter form anyway. Now, when it comes to live streaming, the difference between the two is that when people live stream, it's typically a little bit loose compared to the video format. People tend to just kind of trip over their words like I just did, things like that as they're explaining things or going through a specific topic. If you're a gamer, then in that situation, you have loading screens to deal with and things like that while you're streaming, and that can kind of take away from that replay experience. So because of that, your live streams might be excellent while you're live, but the replay value, and what replay value means is basically once your stream is over, when people come in and they watch it on the replay, then that value on the replay is a little bit diminished because it's a live stream experience, not necessarily a replay experience. So because of that, you have the longer form typically with the live streams, and they're just a different experience than the video content is. So on the discovery side, it's much easier to get discovered with video content because then you can make videos for search, you can make short form, long form, you know, you just have a lot of variety that you can do, where live streams are typically different than video content. Now, with that said, you can do short form live streams as a piece of content, and those can perform well also. You can even do longer live streams, and those will perform well. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure that if you are just doing live streams on your channel, that you're not only thinking of the live stream, but you're also thinking to yourself, if somebody were to come into this live stream after this live stream is complete, of course, it's going to be awesome for the people that are hanging out, but how can I also make this awesome? How can I make it make sense for the people that are coming in on the replay? And if you can figure that part out in terms of your live stream starts, as soon as you go live, you tell people exactly what it is that's going to be happening in your live stream. And of course, you might be thinking, why would I do that? People are just starting to come into the live stream. Well, the reason that you do that is for the replay. It has nothing to do with the people that are just coming into the live stream, because those notifications are still going out while you're doing that. People are just now finding out that you're live. So you get in those types of things at the beginning of your live stream, and then that adds to or helps to elevate that replay value that we were talking about a second ago.
And that's an example of what we did here today. If you were watching live, you were in the countdown ended, we went straight into it. But if you watch my show flow video that I did a couple weeks ago, or about a month ago, you know, those of you viewers who have watched that, you know that there's different ways that you can chop that up, right? So you could also just start hanging out with your live viewers, give them a great live experience, then kick it off, end it appropriately for that trim, for that core content, and then, you know, hang out with them at the end as well. And I love being intentional with my content so that I'm providing the best possible live experience, but also the best possible replay experience. So you just, the word here is intention. Like both of us are saying that, you know, you've got to think about what's happening later and what you're trying to accomplish and then test that. So people are asking, and then we're going to get into CTR and AVD and what are those and all of the things. But people are asking about two things, using live streaming content consistently. Will that grow your channel? I'm here to say yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it can. Yeah, absolutely. It can. Yeah, and the reason that it can is because, and this is another beautiful thing about mixing video and live streaming content as well, is when you have video content, you're going to have some people that will just watch your video content and they don't care about live streams. You're going to have some people that will watch your video content and your live streaming content because they just like all the different stuff that you do. And then you're going to have some people that don't watch much of your video content, but they hang out in your live streams every single time that you go live. So the really cool thing about growing a channel just from live streaming without video content is all of those people, if you were mixing things that would just hang out while you're live and they don't really care that much about your video content, for those people, you're still able to connect with those particular people and they're still going to come in and hang out, with your live streams. And if you put together a really good live stream, then in that situation, you're going to grow that audience of people that loves live streams. And the beauty about YouTube, and this is where YouTube is just a magical, mythical creature, is that when you are doing something on your YouTube channel and people start responding to it, if it's live streaming, video content, whatever it is that you're doing in your channel, once people start responding to it, then YouTube systems are going to identify other people on the platform through the way that they use YouTube that are also responding to content similar to yours in a positive way. And if they haven't seen your content before and they think your content would be a good fit for that person, they're going to show it to them. And then from there, that's where it's really important to do the things that we were talking about before in terms of the topic, your title and thumbnail, to help those people identify that your content is for them so that you can grab their attention, because YouTube's already showing your videos there, right? When you look at your impressions inside of your YouTube channel, that means for every impression that you get, that YouTube is showing your content to a user on the platform in whatever surface they happen to be looking at. So your job at that point in time is to grab that attention of that new person that's never interacted with you before through your topic, your title, and thumbnail, by helping them identify that your content is something that's for them, something that they're interested in. And then that's what you use to actually pull them into what it is that you're doing and get them involved in your community.
Love it. Well said. And so it's talking about the title, thumbnail, and topic. Let's set the stage real quick with CTR, AVD. What are those things? Why are they important? And then we will tackle the title and thumbnail. And not just, I really want to dig deep here and not just talk about the basics of, hey, it needs to be a good thumbnail. But yeah, so first let's talk about CTR and AVD. Why are those important to pay attention to and know?
Okay, so CTR and AVD. So basically, if you're not familiar with those terms, CTR is your click-through rate. That's what CTR stands for. Your click-through rate comes from that impression that I was talking about, which is where YouTube shows your video on YouTube to one of their users. The click-through rate is how many times have they showed your content to somebody on the platform versus how well have you converted that person through how many times that they showed them into your video, right? How have you converted them through the click to get them to click on what it is that you're doing, right? That's what your click-through rate is. So YouTube says that between 2 and 10% is the average across the platform, but keep in mind that's an average. And they also don't tell us what that means in terms of impressions. They just tell us just kind of like a really loose number that doesn't mean a lot. So because of that, it's really important on your channel to go and start paying really close attention to your videos that perform better than others. And then you want to start trying to figure out why. And one of the things that you can do is you can go in, and one of the metrics that you need to be looking at in that situation is your click-through rate, because you need to be able to determine over a period of time, after a certain amount of impressions on a particular video that you publish, what does good look like for your content and the people that YouTube is showing your content to, okay? So the next thing is that you also have your average view duration, your AVD. That stands for average view duration. And what that is basically out of the masses that YouTube is showing your content to, on average, how do people respond to your video? Now, the really cool thing is when people are responding to your video, YouTube has something called an audience retention report for every single video that you publish to the platform. So the really cool thing about that is you can go in excuse me, you can go in and you can see second by second how people are responding to everything it is that you're doing in your videos. So over time, as long as you're taking notes on these sorts of things, over time, you can start to identify, hey, if I'm on screen for more than 10 seconds and nothing has moved, people start leaving. And that move could be just a small zoom in or a zoom out or a punch in or a punch out or whatever. But if nothing is happening after around 10 seconds, people start to get bored and they leave. So you'll start to notice things like that. Or you'll notice when I start my videos and I'm showing graphics and a lot of things are moving at the beginning, then in that situation, people tend to stick a little bit longer compared to when I start the video and it's just me sitting there telling people what it is that they're going to get out of the video. So when you start paying attention to these things in your videos, then it's going to help you increase your average view duration. Now, the reason that it's important to increase your average view duration is because watch time is king when it comes to YouTube. So at the very top of everything, you have to be able to get people to click on what it is that you're doing from the outside. But the most important thing is what happens once those people click, because what happens once people click on your videos is going to determine if YouTube is going to continue to show your content to other people on the platform at a high rate or not. So if you are not paying attention to your average view duration or how long people are watching your videos for, then you're missing a lot of information that's going to help you learn how to make better content for the people that are interacting with your videos, so that you can get people to watch longer so that you can get your videos to perform better on YouTube.
Love it. Okay, so we have all of that we're paying attention to, and yes, as Beanie Draws points out, it can be time consuming.
Sure.
And that's why you stay with that intention, right? You know, you're not trying to do all the things all the time too much. Like I'm live 4 days a week and do an extra 1 to 2 VODs, you know, recorded videos. So that's a lot, right? But I also have a team. Ooh, we're getting fancy over here.
Yep, sorry about that. Yeah, my head looks a little bit hot. So I'm like, yeah, let me turn it down just a tad. There we go. Okay. Now it's a little bit better. All right.
Speaking of which, we have to do an entirely different video about your set, because you have a brand new set design and setup, and I cannot wait to dig into that. You've done some pretty amazing things. So if you guys don't watch his live show on Saturdays at 6 a.m. Pacific?
9 a.m. Eastern time. So your time, I think it might be around 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for Eastern, it's 9 a.m. Eastern time. Now that the time has shifted, that moves me into 8 p.m. here, which means I stop streaming an hour earlier here.
Yes.
So it gives me an hour early. Yeah, it gives me an extra hour back of my life every weekend.
And I'll be there tomorrow. So we're kind of exchanging. I mean, if you open up for guests, sometimes you don't.
Totally.
No worries. Okay. So yes, the video looks different because he's in a very dark environment, and I can do things like this where I darken up me to maybe match a little bit. There we go. How's that? Are you happy now, Kevin? Are you happy? So let's talk. I see a lot of questions coming through about, live streams and trimming and all of this stuff. So keep those questions coming. We're going to tackle them, but I do want to go into, making your videos more interesting with that title and thumb specifically. So what are some tips to really excel at those two things?
So when it comes to your title and thumbnail, like I said before, it's important to make sure, we'll start with the title. So basically on YouTube, on different features on YouTube, your titles are going to get cut off around the 50 character mark. So because of that, since you're trying to get the human beings on YouTube to respond to what it is that you're doing, it's important to make sure that the thing that will be most important to the person that might click on your video or that you want to click on your video, make sure that that thing that's going to grab their attention, that is within that first 50 character mark in your title. So like I said before, if we use MacBook as a reference, if you're targeting people that are into MacBooks, then of course, you can bypass some of this by having, a crystal clear shot of a MacBook on your thumbnail. But if you didn't, or if you had that, but you wanted to just, nail the idea home, then in that situation, instead of your title being something along the lines of, and I'm going to spitball this, but we'll see how it turns out. Instead of your thumbnail being something along or your title being something along the lines of, 10 things you need to know about the brand new MacBook Pro, right? In that situation, the thing that the viewers care about is actually going to get cut off in that title. And if you're reaching an English speaking market, we read from left to right. So because of that, they're going to have to get through all of that stuff in order to get to that MacBook Pro part on the features that it's not cut off on. However, if you're like MacBook Pro at the very beginning, or 10 MacBook Pro features that you probably don't know about, then in that situation, the thing that they care about is at the very front of that title, and it's that thing that grabs their attention in that situation. So you've targeted that video properly compared to the other version that I just went through where you have it at the end, as one example for the title.
And let's remove probably from that you don't know, right?
Yeah,
just
sure.
assuming,
Sure.
right? And then it shortens it even more so that it's a little bit more catchy, right? Things like that. I'm not claiming to be good at titles in the least. But
oh no, that's legit. That's
apart.
Legit though. You know, like removing anything that isn't adding, you know, impact to that particular title. You know, removing that type of stuff is definitely, you know, a good move without question.
And so with thumbnails, Renee Ritchie is very happy that you're talking about MacBooks, by the way. But he says, oh, wait, no, that's not the comment I meant to throw. He was saying that Nick does good YouTuber face. Like, is that important? Is it important that we get all?
It can be. It depends who it is that you're trying to reach. In some cases, it's effective. In some cases, it's not. So because of that, you know, people watching this stream right now, everybody here has a different type of channel. And most of the people here have different types of channels. And most of the people here are targeting different audiences. So because of that, it's really important to test everything when it comes to your thumbnails. But some best practices that I can tell you that you need to do is to make sure that when you're putting your thumbnails together, if you are going to use text, use as little text as possible. If possible, try to think, how can I express this through imagery to where maybe I wouldn't use any text at all? If I could not use text in my thumbnail, if I didn't have that choice, how could I express through the imagery alone what this video is about or the topic that I'm covering so that I can let the title do the work for me and just have the thumbnails, the thing that's actually grabbing somebody's attention and helping them identify that the thing that I'm talking about is something that they care about, right? But also, when you're putting your thumbnails together, it's important to make sure that you are testing additional things. Like, you know, like, okay, if I am putting me in the thumbnail, and this isn't something to test, this is something that you just want to be intentional about. If I'm putting me in the thumbnail, am I the thing that's grabbing the attention, or is it the thing that I want the viewer to actually focus on that's actually going to grab the attention? And one thing that you'll learn if you watch videos on design and things like that, or if you learn anything about design or even photography, to where, you know, you can lead people's eyes around a frame, the same exact thing happens through imagery to where you can lead people's eyes to different things. So because of that, it's important to make sure that you're thinking about, okay, I'm not just putting this thumbnail together and just putting me in it and putting some words on here. What I'm actually trying to do is I'm trying to grab somebody's attention visually, and then I'm trying to have their eyes go to a particular thing in this thumbnail that is going to make the most sense to them or grab their attention or cause them to click or whatever it happens to be. So in this example, let's say, since Renee Ritchie's hanging out here in the house, let's say that Renee has a thumbnail and he's in that thumbnail. I'm going to move to the front, to the side here so I can just do it this way. So let's say he's over here and he's like, right? But here in his hand, we'll just do it with a phone. Here in his hand, let's say that he was doing it here and he's holding the phone, right? So in that particular situation, one of the things that's happening is, sure, he's holding a phone, but he's the biggest thing in the frame. And since he's the biggest thing in the frame, the attention's going to go to him, and they might see the phone if he's pointing to it. That's going to help pull the eye over to the phone. Trying to get my positioning right here. That might help pull his eye over to the phone, or the viewer's eye over to the phone, but ultimately it's going to be him. So if they don't know who he is, or you know, they don't read the title because they're just skimming through on their phone, then in that situation, he might not be able to grab their attention because he's not showing them the thing that they would actually care about, which in this situation would be the iPhone. However, if he did something like this, and the lighting is going to be a little bit weird, and I'm working on the positioning here, but let's pretend that we were both in focus. Here, I'll just do it up there. There we go. Let's pretend that we're both in focus in terms of, you know, the phone and myself, and he's like this here. then in that situation, the phone is way more prominent in the frame. I'm actually kind of in the background of it, and the attention actually goes to the phone, which is the thing that's going to grab the person's attention that cares about the iPhone. So the idea is whatever type of content that you want to make or that you are making, if it is tutorial content, if it is cooking content, if it's tech content, if it's motivational content, whatever, the thing that is going to grab the person's attention the most that you're trying to reach, that's what you want to have the focus of in your thumbnail. Now, one thing that you might see also is if you have content like Luria and myself, you'll see us, you'll see marketers, people that are building our personal brands, not just our YouTube channels, but we're also building our personal brands. You'll see us in our thumbnails like all the time. And because of that, you'll think, oh, well, they're doing it, so maybe I should put myself in the thumbnails too. What you should do is you should actually test it. And you should test it because you might actually be hurting your thumbnails. You might actually be hurting your click-through rate, especially if you're just getting started, because Luria and myself, we both have audiences already. And since we have audiences already, by putting ourselves in the thumbnails, then the people that dig our stuff, they know that we made that, there's no question. And our faces will help them identify right at a glance that it's our content. So our audience that we already have can identify that, and they can come in and watch what it is that we're doing. But even with that, I'll experiment with thumbnails sometimes to where I'll even take myself out of the thumbnail after the video has been online for a week or two. And I'll do that to see if I can get a better click-through rate. And in some cases I can. And in that situation, I'll even swap those thumbnails out. And you can see them on my channel right now if you go to my videos page, but I'll swap some of those thumbnails out to where I'm like, hey, for a general audience, I wish that my face would convert people, but unfortunately that's not the thing. It's the actual thing that they care about that converts people. So because of that, I have to focus on that at times, in the thumbnails as well. So when it comes to, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you said something really interesting there, because we tried not using my face in a thumbnail recently when I was interviewing Rob from TubeBuddy, and we got feedback from the chat room while we were live that they thought they were watching a TubeBuddy stream because they just saw it in their feed and they were like, oh, I'll click on that. That's TubeBuddy. And no, it was Live Streaming Pros. And so, what you said was that a week or two after you remove your face. So you're balancing, what I hear you saying is you're balancing the people who are subscribed and wanting to see you when it first comes out, and then kind of switching to the people, like they've already watched it by that time, then you're swapping to like a general audience to attract new people. That's an interesting point right there.
Yeah. And with that also, like in that situation, you can do that same exact thing.
Uh-oh.
So,
oh, there we are. You froze for a second.
So what I was saying is you can actually do what Luria was just talking about in both directions. So let's say, for example, that you are interviewing somebody that is prominent. Let's say that you have a YouTube channel about food, and then you happen to get some, person that works that's like a famous chef, and everybody knows who they look like or what they look like because they're on TV. Well, in that situation, using that person might help bring more attention to that. Using that person in your thumbnail might bring more attention to that video than using yourself in that situation, because that person has more prominence. So they know when they click on it that video is going to be something about that person. You'll see motivational channels, inspirational channels, marketing channels even doing similar things as well, to where they'll leverage somebody else's following by making a video about that person. You'll even see it to where, even in our space, to where people will say, hey, this is how Mr. Beast got, X amount of subscribers on his channel, or, something like that. And then they'll have the photo of Mr. Beast in there, and they make the entire thing about him. And the creator, they just remove themselves from it because they know that, that focusing on him is going to end up getting more clicks instead of focusing on themselves. So because of that, when it comes to your thumbnails, it's just important that you test those types of things. Okay. But some additional best practices for you are, of course, we talked about text, using as little text as possible. If you use text at all, making sure that the thing that you are wanting to bring attention to is prominent enough in the frame that it fills up enough of the frame to help people identify that that particular video is, on that particular thing. So let's say, for example, another example, if you're making food content and you're showing people, this delicious recipe that you put together to make this great cinnamon roll. Well, in that situation, you don't want to be there holding that cinnamon roll that's only this big. You want that cinnamon roll to be front and center, and you want that cinnamon roll to look as delicious as possible because you want people to click on that so they can learn how to make it. So because of that, you have to make sure that the thing that the viewer would be the most likely to care about around the topic of your video is the thing that you're using to grab their attention and let them know it's for them in the thumbnail as well. Also things that you can try, depending on, how many people that you have doing what it is that you do on your YouTube channel, you can try things like, a thumbnail with just you, a thumbnail with, you plus one of the other people that are on the channel. You can do it with, things to where it's just zoomed in on the thing by itself, or then zoomed in with the thing plus you on the thumbnail as well. But the best thing that you can do is experiment with your thumbnails through A/B testing, so that you can make sure that what it is that you're doing is effective and that you're not just going off of a hunch. Because when you go off of a hunch, that's the thing that starts the experiment, but you got to be able to prove that hunch so that you don't end up working against yourself by thinking, hey, this is the thing that I should do. I'm going to give a reference here really quick. So I was on Reddit just the other day, and somebody posted in that particular Reddit community, and they said that they've been on YouTube, I think it was like 8 years, and they've gotten 500 subscribers a year for the last 8 years. And people in the chat were like, oh my gosh, this is so demotivating and things like that. And I went and I looked at their channel, and like, it's crystal clear to me why they're not growing on the channel. Like, their thumbnails, they weren't focused on the right thing. The person on that channel, they were trying to be the superstar instead of letting the subject matter, the thing the viewers care about, be the superstar in their thumbnail. And because of that, just how they were packaging things up on the outside, like, they're still, if they don't change that, they're going to continue getting 500 subscribers a month if they don't change that. The videos were okay, but how they're actually packaging it up with the topic, title, and thumbnail, topics were okay too. Just the actual thumbnails and the titles themselves were just destroying that person. So, just make sure that you're paying really close attention to what's going on with your thumbnails. But one thing that you can use for that.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you can use TubeBuddy, which Luria might have a link to in the description here, but you can use TubeBuddy to help you identify thumbnails that are effective. You can do that through their Legend package. If you are going to get that, make sure that before you do that, you are getting a little bit of views on your videos. Let's say, at least 1,000 views on a video, maybe 500, but you want to let that sit for a while you're doing that test. But you can also just go in and do it the old-fashioned way, to where you just go in, you change the thumbnail, and you look and you notice if your CTR changes. But when you're doing that, keep in mind that if your impressions tank, that there's a really good chance that your CTR will raise, because YouTube is showing your content to less and less people, which helps that percentage go higher in that situation a little bit easier. And those people also end up with the less impressions. They also end up being in places like, your subscription feed, for example. And because of that, then of course, those people are going to be more likely to click on your stuff as well.
This is gold, guys. Are you enjoying this? Give me a big yes in the comments, or no, if you want me to boot Nick off right now. Hey, Nick booted me off his stream.
Oh, yeah. Payback, right? Payback. Here it is. I'm waiting for it. I'm bracing myself.
I totally wanted when you did that. It was a total joke, everybody. But when you did that, I was like, oh, I'm going to clip that and tweet it. Like, Nick booted me off. Kicked me off. But yeah, so I
really
think that
quick. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is a really good point. John says when MKBHD comes on, shameless plug, March 30th, everybody, 10 a.m. Pacific, Marquez Brownlee on the show, put my picture on it. Of course, we have, but there's testing to be done there, right? For my audience, immediately they want to see that, but maybe it'll perform better without my face and just his, because he's much more well known, right? So you gotta play that a little bit, right?
Absolutely. So one thing really quick. Yeah. Animal Paradise says, what is A/B testing? Great question.
Great question.
A/B testing, I apologize for not clarifying that when I mentioned it. So A/B testing is where you have your original thumbnail. We'll call that thumbnail A. And then inside of TubeBuddy, you can load up a thumbnail B, another thumbnail. And then what the system is going to do is they're actually going to swap those thumbnails back and forth. And then they're going to give you a whole bunch of information based on how people respond to each one. And then they're ultimately going to tell you which one is the most effective. Now, within that, they're not just going to say this is the one that's most effective. They're also going to show you details about why it's effective. So for example, they'll tell you, hey, this thumbnail performed better in search, but this one performed better in browse features. It'll show you when people clicked on this thumbnail, they watched for this amount of time compared to this thumbnail where they watched for this amount of time, which is really important. So one of the things that we talked about when we first started here was the importance of your topic, title, and thumbnail. Well, your topic, title, and thumbnail, they build an expectation as people are clicking on that of what they might get when that content starts or when they, when they're watching the video. So because of that, when you change your thumbnail and your title, it also can change the expectation of the users that are clicking on that thumbnail and title, which can then get people to watch your videos for longer or shorter periods of time. So just as a heads up, when you do thumbnail testing, sometimes your original is going to be way better. Sometimes your original is going to suck in comparison to the other one. And sometimes there's going to be just a little bit of difference and you're just going to have to make the call. However, it's really important to make sure that you're testing these things so that you can make sure that the things that you are doing on your YouTube channel are the most effective possible for the people that you're trying to reach.
Love it. All right. We're going to talk about the content itself, right? Making your content itself more interesting and some pro tips from Nick here in just a second. But first, trucking tips, super chat. And my super chat alerts aren't active at the moment, but thank you so very much. Oh,
super chat.
There we go. Thank you.
Gotcha.
I love having a pro on the show. I had a gaming channel and I decided a new niche. A niche was a bad idea. I didn't want to lose monetization or the subscribers. I think the question is maybe, do they change their niche? Is that how you're reading that?
Let's see here.
Or maybe that's not a question. Well, it says question.
A new niche, was that a bad idea? I don't want to lose, or I didn't want to lose them.
I read
so
that
it's
wrong,
almost
yeah.
like they did it before, but they changed it back maybe. Yeah. So here's the thing, like when it comes to pivoting on your YouTube channel, just to make sure that we have it, that we got this question covered. Like when it comes to pivoting on your YouTube channel, you absolutely can. But there are just a few things that you need to keep in mind. If you have a set of videos or a lot of videos that are primary traffic drivers of your YouTube channel, it's going to be really difficult to completely change up what it is that those people are clicking on. It's going to be impossible to change what those people are clicking on that those videos are bringing in. So
Right.
because of that, it's important that one, you either
So it
private
went
that
from-
content or you unlist that content, and then you, it's trucking now.
It went
Okay,
from
cool,
gaming
cool,
to
cool.
trucking, so that makes sense.
Oh,
now.
okay. Cool. Okay. Yeah, so I'll stop there then since we got that one covered.
Hopefully that helps trucking tips. All right, let's talk about the content itself, right? If we're live, we've got the audience engagement to think about. If we're recorded and live, we've got the flow of the content, your personality. There are all kinds of things that go into making the content itself more interesting so that viewers want to stick around, so that we have that longer average view duration. What say you? Give us your best tips.
On things to do in your video or live stream to keep people watching?
You know what? Let's cover both video and then live.
Okay. Sure. So when it comes to video content, and this is another one you got to experiment with, but some things that are proven to keep people watching videos that you should be experimenting with are, so when your video first starts, the most important part of your video is that very first part, because a lot of people are making the decision to stay on the video or leave the video. And the more people that you can get to stay there, the slower your drop typically is across the rest of the content or across the rest of the video or live stream. So because of that, that very first thing that happens when your video first opens is paramount in terms of making sure that you're able to grab people's attention there. So some things that you can experiment with are, if you notice that when your videos first start, that you have what we call the hockey stick of death, and that's basically to where your video starts and in your audience retention, you just see just a straight, not straight, but just an extreme drop down, then in that situation, that's telling you that you're not able to get people past that beginning part of your video. Now, it's normal on YouTube to have, a bit of a drop, but you want to stop that drop as high as you possibly can. So some things that you can experiment with are having yourself on video when it first starts, seeing how people respond to that, and then switching to some B-roll, or having some B-roll when your video first starts and then switching to you later when your B-roll is up. Another thing to experiment is when your B-roll is up, and B-roll, by the way, is extra footage. So if you are talking just like I am right now, or let's say you're walking around with a camera and you're vlogging, then in that situation, you're on camera, right? So one of the
That's
things to
A-roll.
try, if you notice that that drop still happens in that situation, is to have your B-roll, which is basically, you know, you have your talking headshot and the B-roll is that extra footage that you put on top of it so they don't see you. Then in that situation, you would have the B-roll, but maybe you're still talking in the background about whatever it is that you are going to be sharing in the video or whatever. But the idea is to experiment with different things in the beginning until you find something that across a series of videos continues to grab people's attention, that you prove it time and time again in your content for the people that YouTube is showing your content to, that those people are responding to how you're opening your videos. So experimenting with you on camera, B-roll, experiment with B-roll, but music. If you talking isn't doing the trick, experiment with having B-roll plus music. If that doesn't do the trick, then experiment with having the B-roll plus you talking underneath it, or B-roll with just something else happening in terms of, you know, sound effects, things like that, to just get them through that first, you know, little bit of a part. And then when you come on camera, then pay really close attention to what happens there. So one of the things that a lot of content creators do is when the camera comes on them, they'll pause for a second and then, you know, and then they'll start, you know, talking about whatever it is that they're going to talk about. And they'll try to start leading into a story, but their ability to do that, maybe it's not quite there yet because they're still learning how to story tell. And because of that, they might see their audience retention start to tank. If you're one of those people and you see that, then in that situation, that tells you, okay, while I'm working on the storytelling, I need to keep adding these stories to my videos because I need to, you know, develop this skill. However, if people aren't responding to it, then that means I need to really work on my storytelling in terms of how do I hook people when I first start telling this story? How can I make this about them? How can I make this about something that they can feel like they're involved with so that as I continue telling the story, they're more likely to stick around, right? So you want to do things like that and experiment with those types of things in your videos in order to keep people watching. But at the end of the day, when it comes to making videos, you have a handful of things that you can do. You can show you on screen. You can show the stuff that you're talking about on screen. You can show B-roll. You can also show like graphics and things like that. And that's pretty much it, right? I mean, you have animations that you can do as well, but those are pretty much it in terms of the options that you have. So it's a mix of all of those different things.
Hold on. Like, why my buttons start working? Birthday confetti for Nick. Everybody's like wishing you a happy birthday all of a sudden again. You can do that in recorded or live.
Thank you. Birthday confetti. I love it.
And then in live streams, you know, those are really good things to do in video. With live streams, same type of topics or same type of tips, except for B-roll. I mean, you can do pre-recorded videos and things like that, but go for that.
Yeah, so with live streamings, of course, you can do pre-recorded video and those sorts of things as well if you would like to, but because live is a different experience and people typically are in live streams for, you know, the content that they're getting out of that live stream. Like we were talking about before, live stream viewers are a little bit different than people that are just watching video content that don't like live streams. Yeah. So because of that, make sure that you do interact with your live stream guests somewhat, but don't do it too much, because if you do it too much, you're going to notice that your retention will start going down in your live streams as well, because it will take your live stream from this is what we're talking about today to we have like a 5-minute shout out session, right? And people will start leaving during that shout out session. Yeah. So because of that, you know, sprinkle some love out there, right? But just don't take it too far to where, you know, to where people start heading out there at that time. Another thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to shuffle around a lot. And what I mean by that is when the live stream first starts, you don't want to be like, okay, so right now, while some, you know what? We're gonna wait for some people to get in here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
right now we've got like 4 people.
Like just
we got like 4 people watching, and we're just gonna wait for some more people to get in here. So let's go ahead and
just over here promote the show real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we get started, let me share this out on Twitter and Facebook and, you know, like those types of things. You don't want to do that because that's not what people come in for. It's important to think, like, especially when you're live streaming. This is important with video too. But when you're live streaming, like, you're an entertainer. Like, you're an entertainer. And in addition to that, you might be sharing information as well. Or you might be showing people how to do stuff, or you might be, you know, taking people through an experience, but you're an entertainer. People are coming and they're watching you live, and it's your job to keep those people interested. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to put on a clown suit, but it does mean that you need to make sure that you're communicating in an engaging way, that you're talking to them throughout the entire stream, that you're not just, you know, just not paying attention, or that you are just not, you know, just not talking or anything like that, you know, at all for segments of your live stream. But you definitely want to keep people as involved as possible. Now, other things that you can do, let's say you need a break. Let's say that you need to drink a water, you need to go to the bathroom, something like that, and you still want to hold your viewers. You can do that as well by just putting up like a be right back graphic of some kind.
Or you could go to dance break.
Or a dance break. Yes.
Or you can go to
you can do a dance break. Absolutely. And you can also do things like for ours, we had a thing made for so I can take a sip of coffee, and I'm working on more as well. But like I play this right here.
If you're enjoying the show, remember to give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend right now.
And by the time that's done, that gives me time to grab my coffee cup, take a sip, you know, put the coffee cup down, and you know, it just creates it to where it's still nonstop, but it gives me time to just take a break, to take a breather real quick, you know, grab a cup of coffee or a cup of or a glass of water, whatever it happens to be, take a sip of something, you know, during that particular time. But, you know, the idea is to just keep people, you know, just keep the whole thing moving along. Yeah. And after a while, you'll get to a point to where, you know, you'll have to organize things, and, you know, you'll have to get things to a certain point where, you know, hey, this part of the show, we're doing this part of the show that we're doing this part of the show that we're doing this. When you plan out your live streams, it's going to make a huge difference because it's going to keep you on track. And when you stay on track, people tend to stick around. And if you go off track a little bit, people stick around for that too. But you just don't want to spend too much time off track. If you're promising a very specific topic, you want to try to just let it breathe a little bit, talk about something else just for a short amount of time, and then pull it back as soon as you possibly can. Get everything right back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to learn more about that and get a workbook, I have a workbook for you to help guide you through that process that Nick is talking about. Just go to livestreamingpros.com/showflow. That will give you a video that I talk about all of that and a workbook. So just to help guide you there a little bit. Hey, give me real quick before I lose this one, because he didn't put Q in front of the question, so I don't want to lose this one, but how important is it to give credibility about yourself at the beginning?
Depends on what you're doing. If you're just sharing information and like if you're just sharing information with people, it's not that big of a deal. If you are trying to sell people something, then you probably want to give your credibility. And it also depends on if you are targeting subscribers or if you're targeting new people. So for example, in my case, my live streams, those are made for the people that are already interacting with my community. Now they do get in front of new people, but I do them for the community. So it's like, if you watch my channel and you're hanging out, then it's your opportunity to ask questions and get, you know, laser focused answers based on the things that you're dealing with. And if it's a new person, sure, they can come in and ask questions too. But for the people that are already watching my videos, things like that, they already know what's up. So because of that, you know, if you're selling something, I would, because it'll help you convert. And you might not even necessarily need to do that at the beginning. You might just want to do that before you start selling. And when it comes to, you know, just doing whatever it is that you're doing in your live streams, through the things that you should be doing in your live streams, if you are trying to sell stuff or you're trying to demonstrate your expertise, your live streams should be structured around demonstrating your expertise, right? Absolutely. And then when you do that, then you don't have to give credentials and, you know, that sort of thing, because you're clearly demonstrating that you know the stuff that you're talking about.
Again, going back to the intention, the planning, the prep, think about it as the first piece of your puzzle is creating your intention. If you think about peace in an acronym, are you there to play, inspire, educate, community, like what Nick is saying, he does his live streams for his community, or are you there to entertain? Now, we're all entertainers all the time, but is the primary purpose of that entertainment, right? And that will tell you when you need to bring out the credibility and when you don't need to. But also, I'll drop credibility in just natural conversation so that it doesn't feel like I'm trying to pitch myself, because that gets awkward. Right. And so like if I'm saying something about, you know, on-camera presence or something like that, I'll be like, you know, I learned this over 15 years of being on camera, blah, 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 right? And so you can drop credibility like that and make it a lot more smooth and less uncomfortable for yourself. Do you do that?
Me, like, with my thing, like, I don't even care, like, to be honest with you, like, for me, like, I've never even cared about that. Yeah. Like, for me, my thing is just like, I'm just trying to add value to people. Yeah. And for the people that are like, hey, you know, what's going on? They can research or whatever they want. Yeah. And that's, you know, whatever, like, For
So
me
do
personally,
you.
that's never been something that I cared about.
All right, hit that super chat alert.
Super chat.
We're team sound effecting right here.
Yeah, we are. Trucking says, again, just want to say thank you to all you guys. I listened to Nick for 3 hours this morning as I couldn't sleep, and I seem to learn more every time. Nick is amazing at
Awesome.
that. Providing value builds credibility and authority. Well said,
It does.
Kat. All right, so we only have a couple of minutes left. Anything you want to talk about specifically before I answer a couple of questions, and then we'll wrap this baby up. I should never say that.
I do, a couple of
Don't
things.
ever say that.
Yeah, first, don't do that because that can
stick.
hurt your retention. As you start to identify that the stream's coming to an end, people, can start leaving, but you do not want to do that because we're getting ready to drop some fire here.
Exactly.
Okay, so the very first thing is that a lot of people, and I just published a video about this, a lot of people will look at the tech because they'll see, like Luria using all this high-end stuff. They'll see, me when they watch my stuff, they'll see me using, all these switchers and things like that. And they think like, in order to have a good live stream, I need to do that.
Yeah.
You don't. There are options for you in terms, like you can even just live stream directly from your phone these days, right? Like you don't have to have all the stuff. All you need is to have an audience that you want to connect with and the gumption or the courage to just go ahead and start putting yourself out there. And then you can go live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever it is you want to go live, you can do it right here. So any limitations that you think you might have if you're considering getting started, but you're not going to get started until you get, that equipment that you need, as long as you have one of these, get started because there's a lot of stuff that happens on the back end that you also need to learn. So while you're waiting to upgrade your stuff, if you ever even need to, while you're waiting to upgrade your stuff, you're learning how to develop the skill sets of being able to be live for longer periods of time or to learn how the process of, setting up a live stream even works on the back end of getting your set together, things like that. And then you can upgrade as you go if you even need to, because all that tech that you think that you might need in order to actually get started, you might find out that, wow, you know what, just with a webcam and my computer, I'm good to go. I don't need all this extra stuff, right? So then you just saved yourself a bunch of money in the process as well. Number two is to be patient once you do get started. Sometimes for some people, maybe they have a over-the-top personality, maybe they have some type of history that they brought onto them with YouTube. And by history, I mean they've developed skills in their past or pre-YouTube life or pre-live streaming life to where they can apply that directly to their live streams and things like that, which helps them get off to a better start. If you are not one of those people, it's okay. Be patient because, those people are able to do that because they came in with that experience from, maybe presenting and their job or something like that before. And maybe you have to start developing those skill sets now. So be patient because this whole entire thing, it's worth it. I promise you, it's totally worth it. But you have to go through the process of developing skills in order to get you through, I should say, some of those plateaus that you might hit on the way, on the way up while everything's coming together for you. So start now with whatever you've got so that you can practice and be patient as you're practicing because audience development is a process, right? You're developing an audience. In order to get all of the, awesome stuff that you want over on this side, you have to walk through all the stuff on this side to get there. So, because of that, just look at it as a process, not a, hey, if I don't have, 50,000 subscribers this time next week, I'm done, right?
Yeah.
Look at it as a process and just keep trying to be better than you were with the last live stream you did or the last video you published, because you're going to see you're going to do better than a lot of people and a lot of people are going to do better than you. It's just how it works on the platform because people respond to people differently and people have different skill sets like I was just talking about, but don't let any of that discourage you. Just focus on being better than you were in your last live stream and better than you were in your last video and you'll do fine.
Such great advice. And because we are all about taking action and trusting the process and going through that, the next thing that I want you to do right after we dance this baby out, I want you to go over to Nick's channel, watch his latest YouTube video about a guy who 100,000 subscribers with just
100 now. He's getting like 24,000 subscribers a month.
That's crazy.
And he started less than a year ago, and he's got over 100 now. He's got I think like 111,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, and all he uses is an iPhone, and he's just crushing. So yeah, definitely go check out that video.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, watch that video. Take the action. Get in the brain space of going through the process. All right, Nick, thank you so much for all of the knowledge bombs. And I don't have a knowledge bomb drop. Thank you. See?
No problem.
Nick bringing it today.
Yep.
And a big thanks to Super Chat from Renee. Do you toast your bread or not? Sorry, I had to see if Luria would kick anyone off.
Yeah, I toast.
I don't.
Yeah, I toast even for peanut butter and jellies.
No, that's the argument. Peanut butter and jelly doesn't require toasting. But
yes, it does.
We will
doesn't require it, but man, when you toast, it's such a better thing.
I still have yet to try it. I need to do that. Thank you guys so much. Nick, thank you so much. Put those dancing shoes on, and we're going to dance this baby out. Thanks.
Thank you, Luria. Oh, there we go. I got it. Yeah. So like something just happened with like volume. I can't hear it. Now I can hear it. I can hear it now.
You so the audience could hear.
Oh, now I can hear it.
Okay. Bye.
That's okay. We can do this way though.
Pew 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 pew. Pew 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 pew.
Bye.